Welcome back, everybody, to the Crypto Conversion Podcast. As usual, it's Brandon, Connor, and Matt. We are bringing you crypto, Web3, blockchain analysis from a Christian worldview lens. And as usual, we're all here. We're all doing well. It's summertime. I've been enjoying the weather. I don't know about you guys, but we finally have had like a full week where it's been tolerable to walk outside. Doing a lot of walks lately, and just enjoying enjoying it while it lasts because it does not last long enough up here in the north, right, Matt?
Yeah, well, actually, I feel like it went from spring to summer too quick right
Yeah,
here. We had some great spring weather days, and the last few days have just been really hot outside. So I'm looking forward
yeah.
to.
Yesterday I mowed the lawn.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I've been mowed the lawn this week as well. I've got one of those mechanical like rotary lawn mowers. So
No,
it's not
really?
gas powered. Yeah, I have a small enough lawn, but it's always fun.
My
I
grandparents had
technically
one of
have one
those.
too, but I'm still using a combustion engine over here with my pusher. So,
Yeah.
it was a free one though, so I'm
Oh,
not gonna
hey,
complain.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
can't complain
no,
there.
you don't complain when you get a free combustion engine. However, the battery ones do look sweet. I'm not gonna lie. So, we don't talk to Connor about the weather because, I mean, even though he did have some crazy weather this past weekend, it's usually gorgeous where he is. So,
It's
you
too
survived the
hot.
storm though.
The storm was fine. Yeah, I don't. The internet company just didn't know what to do with it, I guess. So I was without internet for like 5 days.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we apologize for having a late release for the episode this past week, but it just so happened that's the way the cookie crumbled. Hopefully, you all enjoyed that time capsule episode, and like we kind of talked about, those are going to be something we'll do kind of like a bi-quarterly basis. I think is good enough because it just gives us a good way to kind of review what's been going on in the world and our worlds with crypto and I think it's just a fun episode to just do once in a while, so it's not too serious. Because this stuff we can get kind of bogged down between the subjects, and it's nice to just kind of have some more free flowing banter related episodes. So, um, with that being said, yeah, please like, comment, review, subscribe for us to keep doing this. On the podcast, unsubscribe, resubscribe. We're out wherever podcasts are found, and on YouTube, and hopefully we'll be getting this out to more platforms as we continue to grow. So let's get into the news. I'm curious what you guys have been seeing. There's been some interesting stories this week. It's just been kind of a weird. It's been a weird week. A lot of interesting market fluctuations. I think there's been a lot of FUD that's been put out there that might be causing some of it. I'm, ultimately not 100% certain, but we had a very bullish run, and then we were kind of on a high last week Friday night, and then it just kind of all crashed um, on Tuesday. I was like, well, I guess I'm stuck in some of these, what do you call them, gems or meme coins? I don't know anymore, but I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. It's just kind of been funny, the fluctuation of the market and things that have stemmed out because of it.
I think I said I don't remember if I said it in the episode or off the episode, but I like how much of a roller coaster being in a micro cap meme coin feels like, so it's fun to I have a good time riding the ups and downs. So, it's
Yeah.
whatever.
As long as you're playing with gambling money, it's fine.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's you got to treat it like blackjack. Dealer, you get 21, nothing you can do about it. So, just the name of the game. What have you guys been seeing in the news this week regarding the markets, cryptocurrency in general? Matt, I'll let you get started here.
Oh gosh, I was just thinking about this. I a lot of the stuff I've been seeing is going to be kind of the main topic of the episode, or whatever part of the topic of the episode. All the stuff going on with Bitcoin, the clogging of the network, the mempool being backed up for like a week or something, people had unconfirmed transactions for quite a while sitting in there. I don't know. Besides that, um, I don't know. One of you guys shared, I think, uh, the what was it? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce had so there's this Coinbase and is suing the SEC. I think we mentioned
Yeah.
this a few episodes ago. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce apparently is filing a brief in support of Coinbase, and so that's just kind of cool to see that they seem to be on the side of digital assets and clear regulation around them. So anyway, I think that's pretty cool. But I don't know. The only news that pops out to me is all this Bitcoin stuff.
You kind of have to wonder what it means like politically when you have like two of these agencies going at it. Like they're both on the
Behemoth
executive branch,
agencies.
right? But
Yeah.
apparently the staff disagree. I don't know. I just wonder how that plays out politically. But
Yeah,
Yeah, you
like
can read the full brief. Meta Lawman has it on his Twitter account. He's probably one of the best people to follow in regards to the legal news in crypto. Gives some decent legal advice, and just he posts his sources, which I find huge. When you're posting sources for things, and it's not just your opinion, I find that valuable.
sure.
Connor, how
Yeah,
about you? What
so they
have you been
say
seeing?
that yeah,
Oh,
so the three arguments the Chamber of Commerce is making is that regulatory uncertainty is killing innovation in the US, the SEC is destabilizing the digital assets regulatory environment, and the SEC is violating constitutional due process and fair notice rights, which yeah, that checks out based on a lot of the things that we've seen with Gensler and the way they've gone about it. I'm told even that the SEC it shouldn't even be the one regulating it, and it should be the commodities people. Have you guys seen that?
Gosh, I think I did back when the SEC was kind of big in the news, but I can't remember what organization they said ought to be doing the regulation.
I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So I think Gensler or the whole SEC, I don't know, was trying to say that Bitcoin is a commodity where maybe everything else may or may not be. I don't know. I'd be interested to see though if in the future, if it picks up as a medium of exchange, if it'll be treated more like a foreign currency than a commodity or a security.
The
Um,
forex guys,
Sure. I mean,
forex
if
bros.
you have a cryptocurrency, you
They're
why
already
wouldn't
doing
you?
it though in the forex space, the crypto.
They're treating
Right.
crypto as a foreign currency.
Yeah, a lot of the forex guys do crypto. That's
Oh,
kind of
I
their
get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
that's kind of their pitch. It's like, yeah, we invest in everything. I don't know if you've been ever part of those MLM schemes, people that have dove down these rabbit holes of investing with the forex bros. Essentially, it's like you can do anything: foreign currencies, crypto, stocks. And you essentially try to set yourself up so that you can get money from trading firms to do it. And so as long as you're making about 15% a day, you're usually in the clear, but everybody's
Okay.
different. It's kind of crazy because you basically have to dedicate your life to it if you want to do it. And I'm not that good of a trader. But they say there's a system, and if you learn the system and you're religious in following it, apparently you can get really good. But I don't know. I've only heard of like a couple of people that have really honed in on it and sold their soul to do it in full time. But yeah, it's the CFTC, Connor,
Yeah.
just for context, and they're the governing body over the U.S. derivatives market, including futures, options, and swaps. So
Mm,
you kind of think of like what crypto is in there. Like there's futures in crypto. There's some pseudo like kind of options in crypto, and there's definitely swaps. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that, but it's just kind of it definitely sounds more of what crypto is as opposed to what securities are themselves.
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of crypto, if a group launches a token and it's like
That's a sick. Yeah.
right. So
Yep.
there's a big difference, right? And I think Gensler, if you kind of read between the lines, it seems like he's saying that, if there isn't a project that has like issued it, like I think in the past he's said that Ethereum might have seemed like a security because of like the pre-sale that they had, but like at this point it's decentralized enough that it's more of a commodity. But like if you launch a token and there's a team that controls it, and that the value goes up, then it's like a stock, which is a security. But no, I guess I mean it. I think it'll depend on how we view Bitcoin in the future, or crypto in general, right? Is if we look at it as a store of value, and a global reserve, then we might treat it more like gold, which is a commodity. But if we treat it as like digital cash, and a medium of exchange, then I wonder if we'll see it accepted as a currency rather than a commodity. And I think actually this is a news story I had seen. I think it was in Texas. It went through one part of the legislature. Some amendment to their state constitution that said that the people of Texas can agree upon a medium of exchange, and people who are pro crypto, right, especially pro Bitcoin, are saying, "Ooh, that'd be great if we could get a whole state to agree upon Bitcoin as a medium of exchange."
Yeah,
That would be
I was just
interesting.
about to ask that, but I guess is that the answer? Like, is gold fully regulated as a commodity? Like for tax reasons? Is it not? Is there no use case where you use it as a currency and then? I mean, I actually don't know how that works with gold, but I would be curious to know.
I'd have to
Um,
ask my accountants, to be frank.
yeah, because if you use it as, I mean, it's been a currency, a medium of exchange for like eons. So if you're using it in that case, is it taxed the same?
But it's been I don't know. I mean, since the Roman Empire, right? People have had coins, and so like you could exchange gold coins
Yeah.
as a medium of exchange, right? A gold dollar, which is probably the gold is probably worth more than the dollar, right? But I could treat that as a medium of exchange. But
Isn't that
yeah,
crazy that vending machines take golden dollars?
yeah, it's
It's
hilarious.
I've always found that to be like quite the novel concept. If I in some vending machines, if I put a $5 bill in, I you get golden dollars back.
I love that. Yeah, yeah. That's the only time I
Wait,
see
what?
them, and then I put
I'm
them
not
back into
following
the.
this.
What?
What do you mean?
So say I'm getting a candy bar that is like a typical candy bar right now, probably around $1.50 in most vending machines, at least where I'm from.
Hmm.
And so I put it in there. It has to give me $3.50 back, so it gives me $3 golden and 2 quarters.
You mean like the Sacagawea or whatever her name is?
Well, yeah, but there's
Dollars?
multiple kinds of golden dollars.
Huh.
Yeah, there's different people's faces
I
on
mean,
Oh, of
it.
that's
Yeah,
course,
that's
but
one
yeah,
type.
but I
That's
mean,
that, like the
no,
one.
I
but
understand
that's
that,
the
but
coin. The
it
dollar
gives you
coin
that.
that's
It gives you a
gold.
dollar coin instead of the cash.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you
it's
can't. The
hilarious.
I
vending
like never
machines
use
can't.
vending
The
machines, but
vending
okay.
machines can't get you the dollars out because it
Oh,
only
okay.
has a coin dispenser most of the time.
Oh, that
Yeah,
makes sense. I
yeah.
Yeah,
didn't realize that.
yeah. It's kind of fascinating. It's probably the one industry that's keeping them alive and circulable.
I think we talked over you whatever point you were trying to make, man.
No, I think the point was made. I guess I was saying so. Like gold, I don't know if anybody accepts gold. Maybe if society collapsed and we were in a barter system, people might, and I have heard that in, to prepare for those types of situations, that's one reason why people wear gold jewelry, right? So that like
Right.
if they're on the run, whatever, they got to exchange something. People recognize that like, oh, that gold ring is valuable. I'll
Right, but right
exchange this
now,
for it.
as
But
it's a commodity, like if you were to
yeah,
hold it and then you were to trade it to somebody, you owe tax
I
on
think
the
so.
increase, right?
I
Yeah.
think so.
So
Yeah. I don't see why
it's
not.
not a
Yeah.
current. It's really not a currency at all
Yeah.
today.
Which is what would make Bitcoin unique if it was listed as a currency, because every other
Yeah.
currency is a national currency,
Right.
or regional currency for like the euro. And so there's no issuer of Bitcoin because it's just a network.
Well,
right?
I mean, if a country does adopt as a currency, then what?
Sure, I
I mean,
suppose,
technically
right? El
Ecuador did,
Salvador,
but El
yeah,
Salvador, sorry,
yeah,
but I guess it's not big enough to count.
The
yeah.
currency has to be regionalized essentially, like a whole subset or governing body has to agree like this is the currency. It's
Well,
like
let's
it's
say like
interesting how it's just interesting how it all derives around like having a governing body. And that just goes for any currency across the world, it seems like.
Well, if you're going to have laws on taxing income or sales and things like that, you got to say, okay, well, what is a sale? It's measured in dollars. It's
Sure.
so on and so forth. But I guess they don't have to issue it, right? Because El Salvador, even before they adopted Bitcoin as one of their legal currencies, the
Yeah.
dollar is their other legal currency,
yeah,
and like they don't issue
Every
that, and so
Central
they were kind
American
of
country.
I think that I think that was one of the rationales for going to Bitcoin is that like, hey, if we only use the dollar, we're kind of subject to whatever fiscal things, monetary things the U.S. does. Like they could
right.
devalue our currency. So, um, but
Speaking of dollars, the IRS is claiming $44 billion from FTX in a bankruptcy report. I don't know if it this feels kind of crazy, but I we were talking about this before, but is there anybody in the world that could actually write that check? I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't even know what FTX's bankruptcy proceedings have shown, like how much capital is actually left in the
So
company.
it looks like a lot of it looks like Alameda is responsible for about 20 of it, which
20
would
billion.
make sense because of how much
So they're
stupid they
basically,
did.
so they're probably basically asking for like all of FTX assets in tax liability.
is the IRS saying they owed that much in taxes, or that
Yes.
like they owe that much like in debts to people, right? Because they
No. No,
okay,
they're saying they owe that in taxes, and what they're actually saying is that they're claiming that a lot of the so-called like consultants and stuff that they hired were actually employees, therefore they owe back paid taxes on all those consultants. That's
interesting.
how they're getting their claim in. But yeah, it's totally bogus because if that goes through and they get all the taxes, I mean, basically all the people who invested in FTX who actually lost money don't get anything. So yeah,
Crazy stuff. That it and it just blows my mind how much the new CEO is while they're going through the bankruptcy, how much he's making and how much the lawyers are making out of all of this. It's insane, and there's just still so many people that are going to be left without a dime because
hmm
of this. That's the part that's just so corrupt on multiple levels of this thing. And I'm not smart enough to know all the innuendos and things like that, but I saw what the bankruptcy, the CEO that's kind of leading them through this bankruptcy was making a little bit. I saw some stuff about it, and it was an absurd amount of money. Um, and I was just like, where's that coming from? If you are $44 billion in the hole in bankruptcy and you're paying people still, it's just it doesn't the math doesn't add up. I'm no mathematician, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
totally.
It's probably getting paid in FTX tokens.
I hope so. Seriously,
We can help.
billion Shroot bucks.
So
Yeah.
the other big news on the market today, especially I think, is a lot of people claiming that the U.S. government was actually finally selling Silk Road Bitcoin.
Nine
Um,
thousand apparently.
yeah, they actually had come out previously and said they were going to sell all of that Bitcoin this year in 4 big sales. So it's been expected, uh, but still, people are going to be surprised by something like this.
Are they going
However,
to
that
pay
being said,
taxes on that?
what's that?
Are they going to
It's
pay
the
taxes on
government.
that?
No government official pays taxes.
I just had to
They
ask.
earn taxes.
Yeah. Anyway, but that being said, it looks like it's not the case. I saw on Twitter Zach XBT, who tracks a lot of this type of Bitcoin, crypto information. uh, it keeps track of the actual addresses that hold the coinage right now, and it doesn't show that any of them have sold or transferred any Bitcoin. So that doesn't look to be the case. However, it still appeared to have affected the market, seeing the Bitcoin price come down today.
Mm.
See, I think the U.S. government's always going to need some Bitcoin. They're not going to just. It's too valuable right now for them to just be like, "Yep, fire sale all of it." Like they're going to have their U.S. will hold on to some as
If they
just
were smart, they will, but
Hope
I don't
so,
know.
yeah.
It doesn't seem to be the case that at least the moves they've been making don't show that they're thinking ahead like that.
well. If Elizabeth Warren's making the decisions, I guess that would make sense. So
I know talking to Brantley Milligan, he always said it as a national security decision. Like the U.S. government does need to hold Bitcoin and mine Bitcoin. Actually, that's I think what he said.
Mhm.
They need to
Yeah,
mine
mine
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
I'm pretty sure
But
they'll always hold some just for in case like for like FBI investigations and things like that. With crypto.
yeah,
I think they will still always do that for those purposes, but who knows? Let's get on to the topic, Matt. Let's kick this off with the forks of Bitcoin, and I've had a little bit of experience with these, just from working with people that have held Bitcoin since 2015, and essentially, let's talk about the pros here as the average investor. If you are just holding on to Bitcoin, for in a Coinbase account or even in a wallet, you would have got more crypto as a result of this, right? Like, and you could
Got the
have just,
airdrops.
yeah, you could have just exchanged that for more Bitcoin if you wanted to. Um, However, uh, it wasn't always the case, and so yeah, I guess let's just start with some of the history of this because
Mhm.
it's an interesting story. I recommend if people want the full story, I think it's the Coin Bureau podcast episode, the Bitcoin episodes 1, 2, and 3. If you want a really good like dialogue about it, we're just gonna kind of talk about it as is because we're not that smart. But Matt's gonna bring us some of the on-chain stuff. So yeah, I'll let you kind of take it away, Matt, and just kind of get us started with what the forks are and what they do essentially.
well, I
I
think we want to talk about it a little bit later, but we might also just want to mention that one of the big reasons that this topic is so relevant today is because some of these fork discussions have been renewed with recent activity on the Bitcoin chain. So
Oh, yep.
just to
Okay.
give some like
yeah,
today relevance for it.
Yep.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll talk a little history, and then a little present, and why it's relevant again. So just in general, a fork is any time. I think a fork is just any time that the software gets updated, and so you can have soft forks where, it's technically forking, I guess, the where all the nodes are at in terms of like, how quickly nodes and miners update the software. This is so like the Taproot, which we'll talk about later, was called a soft fork. It was this update to the software, but it didn't cause an actual splitting of the blockchain. And then you have a hard fork is a splitting of the blockchain. So if we're going to talk about Bitcoin, but to bring it a different way, when Ethereum did their merge, is what they called it, and they went proof of stake. The the merge was actually a hard fork because there were a group of miners who wanted it to stay proof of work, so they generated this like proof of work Ethereum chain. And so if you held Ethereum before this happened, the chain, they were a continuation of the chain. They didn't launch a new blockchain. They forked it. So after this block, there was the proof of stake chain, and then there's the proof of work chain. So if you held any Ethereum before that, that Ethereum stayed in that wallet on both chains. So you know, call it an airdrop. That's what I like to call it, because I think it's funny to imagine that you're getting airdrops for holding Bitcoin. But the you know, so you got an airdrop of the second wallet, or on the second blockchain of this proof of work Ethereum. And so I think that's a very tangible one to understand, right? Because they changed the whole consensus model. There was a group of people who wanted to stay, who liked it, and a group of people who wanted it to stay the way it was before. And so this disagreement led to a splitting of the chain. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I could get into some of the history. So in 2017 is
You
the most
talk
famous
about SegWit.
Bitcoin fork.
SegWit was a soft fork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where this kind of all stemmed from, right?
I think what it really stemmed from was, in a way, it was about block size and whether or not Bitcoin was going to be able to handle basically what it was going to be able to handle, like actual transactions, the amount of transactions
Yeah.
needed in each block to actually make like a make Bitcoin usable as a medium of exchange for like day-to-day transactions.
Yeah.
And so SegWit was kind of like a solution for that, or a temporary solution. It made things more efficient with the block sizes so that they could handle more transactions in a way.
SegWit also allowed for, I think, and I should have read more about SegWit. I feel like I've been reading a lot about Taproot because it's a recent thing, but I
Yeah.
think SegWit also is what allowed for the Lightning Network to work as a way.
And
Yeah,
SegWit stands for Segregated Witness,
right.
for those of you that don't know that acronym.
Yeah.
It split. Basically, what it did is it split like what you actually had to include in a block for a transaction to go through. It pulled out the signature information from the actual transaction, so that didn't have to be included in the block. So it just made it made blocks more efficient, so they could handle more transactions that way.
Yep.
Yeah. And so this hard fork we're talking about, just to be clear, we have maybe the most famous hard fork is this Bitcoin Cash one. So this was 2017, and you had Bitcoin Cash people preferred a larger block size, as kind of was saying, because they wanted Bitcoin they were in a sense anti-Lightning Network. They wanted all the transactions to happen on chain, so they said we need a larger block size so that these transactions can happen. And then the Bitcoin people said, we're happy with Lightning Network and we're happy with the small block sizes, so we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just that they were happy with the small block size, but they thought that it made the Bitcoin network more secure, because kind of the same problem with like Ethereum, where it's like you can't have a normal person can't have a node that hosts the entire history of the blockchain because it's just too much data. Whereas with Bitcoin, you can, because partially because the smaller block size doesn't allow the system to get so bloated. So because of that reason, they thought it was necessary to have smaller block sizes.
Yeah. And a funny statistic, I was looking up these numbers because I was kind of curious, because I agree. I think it's great that anybody can run a Bitcoin node. If you get a terabyte flash drive, the Bitcoin blockchain, all of the data is just under 500 gigabytes. It's hard to find an exact number somewhere, but I was seeing 480, 490 gigabytes. And then I was trying to look up the Bitcoin Cash blockchain size, and it's actually much smaller, which means it just goes to show that even though they had larger block sizes, people were just not using it. Like Bitcoin Cash blockchain is the number I was seeing was about 220 gigabytes. So, less than half the size. It was like, hey, even though you're allowing for much more data, nobody's using
I wonder if it
stuff.
had to do with some of like the ties to China too with the Bitcoin Cash. It just like it didn't take off as much as they thought it would. It's super funny because I know I'm reading Wikipedia here, but it's super hilarious how the Hong Kong newspaper likened it to Bitcoin Cash is like a new version of Microsoft Word, which generates documents that can no longer be opened via the older versions. And it's like, yeah, Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin doesn't want Bitcoin Cash. Like
Yeah.
they're not gonna care. So it's just I just found it funny that that uh, a lot of this push for Bitcoin Cash stemmed from China-based miners. I bet a lot
Were
of
they
them just
China
ended
based?
up going back to Bitcoin after Bitcoin Cash kind of
Interesting.
fell through anyway.
So I do want to throw out there that even funnier, and we'll talk about this in a second. I want to keep this Bitcoin Cash fork going first, but Bitcoin Cash later fork into Bitcoin Cash than Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision (BSV), and
No,
but
that's just Bitcoin.
the B, the BSV no the BSV blockchain
No, it's
is
Bitcoin.
actually used by enough people, or like they initially did enough stuff on it that blockchain in its totality is like approaching 9 terabytes.
I was just going to ask that because they allow you to put data on. Like I know this guy who published a book on Bitcoin. I was like, how can you do that? And I found out, oh, it was on BSV
Yeah.
because you can publish like data.
They
won't say-
wanted to
they'll
go
leave out
extreme with the block size.
Yeah, they'll leave out that little detail. They'll say like, "Yeah, I published a book on Bitcoin." They're like, "What?" It's like, it was actually Bitcoin SV. Like they'll put that in like the smallest font to cite that because they don't want people to know it's actually BSV.
It's not even that they don't want people to know it's BSV. It's that like ideologically they believe it's Bitcoin. They believe Bitcoin is the imposter and BSV is the real Bitcoin. So it's an ideological thing. It's funny.
We could talk about churches as well, hard forking from each other.
Ooh.
Which one's the real one? All right.
No, I thought that
No.
I've thought the same thing. I was listening to all this. I was like, seems relatable.
Yeah. Every dogmatic.
Is there ever
Another
a good
split.
case? Come on. Is there ever a good case for a hard fork?
You talking in a
Talking about
church?
Bitcoin.
Or in
No, why would
Bitcoin. Okay. I was like,
why
wait
would
a minute.
why would I be talking about the church? I'm
Yeah.
talking about Bitcoin, obviously.
Yeah.
No.
Because this is the crypto conversion podcast
Yeah.
where we talk about Christianity and crypto, Connor. That's why.
We have to draw those parallels. Yeah, which is actually kind of funny. I was seeing Connor, I don't know if you saw this, and for all the viewers, we'll both be at the Thank God for Bitcoin conference next week. I don't know if you'll listen to this episode before. I think you'll listen to before then. Anyway,
Yeah.
whatever. But in preparation, I was watching some interview with what's the guy's name? Breedlove.
Robert Breedlove.
Robert Breedlove, yeah. And I think he was quoting somebody else who like made all these comparisons between like Bitcoin and Jesus, and it was like whatever, just borderline like, well, you got to be careful with how you're drawing these analogies.
Heresy.
And say that it's
Heresy
has these characteristics in common, or whatever. It was funny the way he presented it, but we're here to make the analogy.
We'd love, if you're watching this, we'd love to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, we'd love to talk about this.
Would love to.
Love to have you. So anyway,
Sat at the same bar as you at the hotel. I was watching the Bucks game. You were chilling, so I didn't interrupt him because I didn't want to be one of the conference guys just trying to weasel my way into a conversation with them. I was more interested in the basketball game that was on, enjoying my whiskey. But it was kind of funny because I was just like, oh, there he is right there. And we're just listening to him talk at us about Bitcoin. So yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yep.
So Bitcoin. So if you are asking from the Bitcoin side, right? Like, what's the reason for a hard fork? I do think it's interesting. So I don't know. I'm curious, you guys as well, right? Like, what is there a reason for the hard fork? I have heard complaints from some people, and this was before all the like Taproot Ordinals stuff had been going down, but complaints about how like the Bitcoin core team is in some sense like so anti changes, like this is like the development team, and so you can't like uh, in a sense they're a group. You can't like sure anybody can contribute because it's a public blockchain, but they have to like approve the changes, and so it's I don't know. I could see somebody saying like, no, we need a change like this or that. But obviously you get all these arguments about whether or not it's a good change to make. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on the debates? What your understanding is? Obviously you have to stick with Bitcoin because it has this, it has the name recognition, right? I don't think I don't think any hard fork will overtake Bitcoin, but I don't know. Like, part of me wants to sympathize, especially recently, right, with some of these large block sizers. Right?
It is so. I guess here's what do you think it is? This is like the Bitcoin, the brand, Bitcoin, the philosophy, Bitcoin, the lifestyle. Like, what do you think it is that drives these guys? Because I think there's elements of like we have so many things that are so fluid and transitory in the world today. Is this just kind of like a push to keep like some vestige to be like consistent for once? You get what I'm saying? Like what is it that really makes them kind of like tick? And I guess like I'd really love to kind of talk to a Bitcoin developer or somebody that's like been a miner for a long time just to really understand the obsession with it, because I guess, and I don't know if it's because of my upbringing as a Catholic that I'm just not as attached to some of this stuff as other people are. I don't know like what it is that really drives them. I understand the whole disposition of like, wanting to break from the things in our current societies that have wrecked them. I get that, but I'm just sometimes wondering like, is it Bitcoin the brand or Bitcoin the philosophy and lifestyle, sound money, rah rah? Because I feel like there's definitely some people that are just in it to be contrarian and for the brand.
Yeah, I mean, my take has always just been like, I don't necessarily think that like Bitcoin is the absolute best technology, or is like there's nothing that could ever be better than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like that's not really what it's about. It's really about the community more than anything, and the fact that Bitcoin has such a strong community of like these ideological believers in a way. Even if like I can't participate in that, I recognize the power of that, and I think it's important. It's like important for it to be successful. It needs that. So, yeah, I mean, it's always a balance. It is, but I mean, not to verge on the verge of like Robert Breedlove heresy or whatever you want to call that, but there is something that's like enigmatic, I guess, about this idea of like Satoshi creating this thing and then just like sacrificing himself in a way, like not even going for the popularity, or even like we know the original like pre-mine, whatever you want to call it, the Satoshi wallets, right? The original wallets, and like whoever this guy is or these people are, they're not spending it. So there definitely seems to be something of that philosophy in Bitcoin where it's like it's not about the money, it's not about like the popularity or anything. It's like this is what's needed to fix the current financial system, and I'm willing to sacrifice myself in a way to achieve that vision. So that's kind of an interesting. It's interesting that it's come about that way, and I don't think it would be as successful if it had come about any other way. So just because of that alone, like that inspires, that kind of like martyrdom in a way, kind of inspires like a movement, just like it does with any other cult or religion. So
yeah, no, and just to clarify, Breedlove is verging on heresy with those comments. Just say
You'll have to look at
he might not think
video.
so, but I wouldn't have a conversation with Breedlove to have a debate on theology. For the record,
you would or you wouldn't? You said
I would not. No, I wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
I don't view him as a theologian. So
no, he's not a theologian.
I view him as a Bitcoin philosopher at best.
True.
Yeah. I am curious to see. Maybe this is bad. Maybe I should read the book. See if I can get it online and read the book. Thank God for Bitcoin before
Yeah,
the
you
conference.
can.
Yeah, maybe we
But
should read that book that the conference we're going to.
exactly. But I'm curious on the conference if it's going to be more on the side. Like I've been thinking, especially after seeing that video, I worry that it's going to be more of like
The brand.
preaching or well, preaching Bitcoin to Christians and not preaching like Christianity to Bitcoin.
Yeah,
You
Right.
need to you need
Like
to
I feel
flip
like
them on their heads, Matt.
I
You
feel like
need
the
to bring
Catholic Crypto
Jesus.
Conference was very much, we're going to look at like Catholic theology and morality and see whether or not and where Bitcoin fits into it. But I when I watched that video of Breed Love, it was like, uh, yeah, it sounded like you're preaching, like you're convincing Christians of Bitcoin, and
yeah.
which sure you convince everyone of Bitcoin, but it was like the correlations were a little weird. We should pull up
Yep.
that video sometime and watch it.
Donald Trump had to Donald Trump had to appeal to the evangelicals to get the Republican nominee. So
Sure.
it's kind of like it's interesting. Maybe they see this as like a ploy for like people that are see here's where it's like I'd much rather hear it from Scott than Breedlove because Scott isn't going to be all preachy on me.
Wait, who's Scott?
We have
Scott,
Lindbergh.
Oh, Scott Limburg, of course.
yeah,
He's the
like you
homeschooling
get what
guy.
I'm saying. Like Scott will actually like give me like educational tips, and Breedlove is capable of that. But I feel like sometimes he gets a little too preachy about it.
And maybe this is the difference. Is I think Scott has a good approach. He preaches Bitcoin to homeschoolers, right? And he says this is why that was his article, right? This is 10 reasons why homeschoolers are will become Bitcoiners, right? And I think I don't know. I think there's a difference between drawing analogies and connections there versus like religion and drawing connections between religion and Bitcoin feels a little like you said heretical, right? We want to like, okay, like Bitcoin's not sacred, religion is sacred, right? Like we're gonna keep these two things separate. Where education and money, yes, these are both tools that we use, and so I do think that's why Scott is a bit more he it's more like tolerable, maybe is the word I'm looking for.
Um,
Palpable.
Palpable, yeah.
I actually have not. I really have not heard Breedlove. I had to leave early before
Oh yeah,
he spoke at the Catholic Crypto Conference, and I haven't read his material or even seen him speak online or anything. So I can't really speak towards the actual comments that he's been making. But as far as like how we need to talk about Bitcoin to Christians, I mean, I greatly enjoyed the Catholic Crypto Conference, but like I have my critiques of certain ways, certain speakers that were there as well, and so I think it's kind of complicated because what really needs to happen, and what I did like about the philosophy of Matt Pinto there with the Catholic Crypto Conference is you really need this idea of a conversation, because on one side of the street, like you do need to preach Bitcoin or crypto to Christians in a way. You need not preach, but you need to educate them on like the use case for the technology and why it is that these are things that we should take an interest in and adopt. But we also do need the other side where Christians need to be encouraged and to actually take a part in the conversation of the crypto industry itself, because it's not like crypto is built and now Christians need to use it, right? It's crypto is being built and Christians need to help build it. So that's kind of what needs to happen, and I don't really see any Christian initiative that's doing that in crypto so far.
Besides this podcast.
Besides this podcast
And Dominic.
and Dominic, well, yeah,
Sure, yeah, put Dominic in there. But no, I agree. I think evangelizing the crypto world and the financial world and
yeah.
whatever it is more important than convincing.
And one more thing too that I kind of want to that I was just thinking about today. That's why I want to bring it up. But Christians have this tendency to also like over moralize things sometimes, where it's like
Yes.
I see this particularly with AI, where it's like, what are the implications of this AI technology? And then we have like all these articles and these discussions that happen where Christians are like, discussing about what are the good things that AI can do, what evils can it, bring on society, and blah 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 blah. And it's like we have all these conversations, but none of the Christians that are like participating in these conversations are actually building AI, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a big problem, I think,
Yeah,
where
and
they
it's
don't
interesting.
people don't know what they're
We
talking about because
no,
they're not the tech developers.
and we were talking about AI at work the other day. For my day job, somebody brought it up. Like, it's like, where can we use AI in supply chain and stuff? And the executive that kind of commented on it, he's like, "Yeah, AI can be a great tool, but we don't know where that data, where the end, where is that data going? Like, do we really want to just give up like?" That so much analysis and experience that we have accumulated over time to just an AI that is just going to extract that and use it for whatever they're going to use it for. It's like at some point, it's like we can't just hand over the keys to the car and just let it drive. There's so many experiential things that AI has yet to be capable of understanding that it just won't because it hasn't put in those years of work to anticipate all the potential outcomes or circumstances that can happen in everyday life. And it's not saying that AI can't potentially calculate that someday. It's just that it's not there yet. And it takes a lot of us to be willing to put that information into it in order for it to even compute that. And I don't think if we're smart, we don't just want to give it every data point and experience that has ever occurred, transactionally, analysis wise, circumstantially. It just wouldn't make sense from a business standpoint, at least.
Yeah, see, this is sorry. This is actually kind of funny because I think and one of the benefits of all these AI conversations is it like in some regards helps expose what's already going on in the development world because I don't think people realize the AI is trained on data that's generated by all of us already because that's
Yep.
Google steals your data, Facebook steals your data, right? They sell that data. Anything you post online is being read by some of these models. Yeah, and then the other funny thing that I see all the time because I'm not so I don't actually build AI, but I've played around with it enough and know things that it can do. But it's like funny because I'll talk to somebody and they'll be like, yeah, I wonder if we could generate an AI that would just set off something, a notification when this happens. And it's like, actually, that's just a normal computer program. Like,
Yeah, it's an
that's
automation.
not, you don't need an intelligence to do that, right?
Don't tell them that. They're just talking about a word processor, Matt.
I
Don't
was
tell them
like,
that.
I was like, no, you just need, something that's measuring it. And when it, surpasses that limit, it's just a function, right?
Now you just need them to hire you, and then you just automate it, and don't tell them that you automated it.
You can pay me, and I'll use Excel to do whatever you need me to do. AI that you think you need AI for.
Exactly. No, so it is kind of funny. And so, yeah, I agree that it's not people building it, so people aren't aware of where we're at.
Yeah.
Brandon, I would tell your boss that he could train a model locally, on his own computer,
Sure.
so that it's not out there, right? So that all of his data goes into fine tuning this model.
We
It's
we
not
do, Matt.
right.
We do that. We do that.
Do
Yeah.
you?
It was
Okay.
it was talking about from an external standpoint.
I gotcha.
Yeah, and that's where you become liable to giving like all that
Yeah.
information away to another database that's like, well, how is this going to benefit us? We just literally gave away more, like we gave away the information we had was worth more than what it is worth now to the AI. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like, is the juice worth the squeeze? And it just isn't in certain industries and in all data points. It can't be. And it'd be interesting to watch like look at Matt. Think about it from chemistry. Like, what
Yeah.
could an AI like do an AI can do a chemical equation mathematically, but can an AI go through every chemical combination and formulate the chemical compounds and see what works and what doesn't work? Like, it how would it know? It can't hypothesize that except from what other people are saying from their experiences have occurred, right?
Sure. Yeah. So you definitely need, so an AI is trained, and that's why like ChatGPT, it feels in a sense, I don't know. This is to me one way of thinking about AI. I don't know exactly how accurate this is, but in a sense, if it's trained on, every book that's ever been written, like, everything that's been posted on the internet, when you ask ChatGPT a question, you're like, in a sense, immediately crowdsourcing the entire internet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're right. If ChatGPT was also trained on, chemistry forums, discussion forums, it might be able to do some of those things. I have heard of people use artificial intelligence to, predict, like synthesis routes of chemicals.
Okay.
So like I have heard of people, this is back when I was in college, so a decade ago,
Sure.
I've heard of somebody, doing, they input all these, they train it on all these different types of chemical reactions, and it's predicting things. And then obviously the chemist is, going back and saying like, okay, that would be feasible. That maybe wouldn't
Yeah.
be feasible.
But every
But
chemistry
yeah, no,
department
it's
has a cluster
happening.
like that, though, right? That
Maybe,
runs. Yeah,
hopefully.
a lot of them do. Like, I remember my roommate they were really stoked when they got a really big cluster that could run some really big equations, and I was like,
Yeah,
I have no idea what you're talking about because I
it's
am
awesome.
not that smart, and I dropped out of chemistry after the
Yeah.
first semester I took it in high school. So don't
I never
ask me
took chemistry.
anything related to that.
But to bring it back to where we started this conversation, especially on the AI point, I do think that there's, and so I think you're right, Connor. I think you need somebody who knows a little bit more of the technical side to like, be able to speak to these people. But I don't know. I feel like I've been, I still think that there's, the like a Christian worldview, Christian philosophy, a Christian, moral lens, I think can still lend to any of these types of conversations, right? Like when you study
Oh,
philosophy,
absolutely.
like, you're putting it, you're talking about things generally enough that they could be applied. And I don't know. I've been reflecting on this idea of like artificial general intelligence, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. Like if I just look at this through a Christian lens, like it sounds so silly, right? Like, who are we? Like, are we so prideful of ourselves that we think we can create something, that like exceeds us,
Tower of
in
Babel.
intelligence? It's a Tower of Babel, right? Do we think we get it? And if we don't like realize what we're talking about here, we'll end up trusting something that was built by fallible people, and will be fallible in some ways as a result, and we trust it with our lives and all of our decision making, then yeah, we're going to perish as a result,
Yeah.
right?
As if
True.
we haven't created new ways to destroy ourselves already, right?
Like, but that's it. Like, I think a lot of this like AI doomerism, like, you just have to fall back in some ways on it. Well, the doomers in regards to like general intelligence, you have to fall back and say like, okay, like what are we actually making here? Like it's a computer program, right? It predicts text. I do think there are other parts where AI can, have a very bad impact, in terms of like being able to very quickly create content and images and things like that. But
Did you see
anyway,
Well, it's
Connor? Did you see the AI songs that were being like the Drake songs
Mhm.
that were being created by AI?
Mhm.
That's
It was good.
crazy. I know
was
they
good.
were good, but I was like, man, Drake, why's your music got to be so bad that AI can just come out with it? Like I was like,
Yeah.
shoot.
Yeah, that's funny. To your point, there, Matt, like it kind of reminds me of like War of the Worlds, where it's like you have this giant catastrophe that's going to like end the human race, and then nature just takes care of itself in a way, right? God's creation
Yeah.
just fixes itself. But I mean and that's not to say like we can't ask serious questions about AI and like what things are good and what things are bad. Like of course,
Yeah,
but but I mean, one interesting thing about AI too is like, yeah, you are crowdsourcing the internet. What happens when the internet becomes like AI generated content? It's crowdsourcing itself. It's self-referential, and then you're just introducing a whole bunch of more entropy to the equation in a way. So
it. Some people argue that like Hollywood has already lost its creativity. Everyone's
yeah,
doing remakes or sequels or things like that, right? Like nobody's creating anything new, right?
hmm yeah,
Yeah.
only
I
humans,
This
only
even
humans
before the
create.
AI. But yeah,
Yeah, and now nothing's being created because of the writer's strike. Boom.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Let's
To
talk
pull
about
this,
the
yeah, let's.
last hard fork, Bitcoin Gold. Quick.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
let's just quick, just because we did want to talk about hard forks here, and we kind of got off the rails with religion and Bitcoin and AI, but
It's great.
just to
Great.
bring it back
You're
to
right.
Bitcoin Gold here. This is I believe, is this the last hard fork of Bitcoin, or are there a few more?
No, Connor, did you share that video where you went
There's
through
a
like
lot. There's a
20
lot
hard
more.
forks?
Yeah, not all at
Yeah.
once.
Okay. Okay.
One of
They
them
don't
That's
was
what I
still
like
figured.
exist. Yeah.
Bitcoin God, which introduced like a charity, like it was almost like a DAO that would
Yeah.
vote on how to give like this charity money that the Bitcoin protocol was generating. Um, so it was very interesting. But it did remind me of a couple projects I've seen recently. But that's as
Yeah.
far as I'll go with that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And is
This,
that just oh, Matt, sorry, what were you saying?
oh, I don't know. I want to push the conversation to what's happening in the present, for the
Yeah.
last 5-10 minutes we got here.
Yeah,
So
let's go. Yep.
so to sum it up, Taproot was a recent upgrade to Bitcoin. I think one of the features that led to all these other things is that it seems to have allowed for someone to put like data into an entire block as part of their transaction. And so this led to ordinals, which you all know I'm a fan of because I've brought them up several times. And so you inscribe an ordinal onto a Satoshi. So you kind of mark this Satoshi, you upload all the data you want on it. And then actually some off-chain protocol kind of keeps track of which Satoshi is related to which data, which is interesting, right? And so this is kind of like NFTs on Bitcoin is what people were originally doing with it. BRC20, which is just a really funny name for it because it whatever is not the 20th proposal for whatever on Bitcoin, but BRC20, somebody said, hey, could we put some sort of like JSON input data onto inscribe that onto an ordinal. And then we have this off-chain thing that kind of keeps track of all those. And they were trying to represent tokens. They were trying to go like the ERC20 is why they call them BRC20. And so there are certain rules around it. And it's kind of interesting. I think there are some exchanges that are starting to list these BRC20 tokens, which is funny because then it pulls them even further off chain because they're being dealt with on the exchange. But the way it, I don't know. One of the things that happened recently, as these have become more popular, I think they've gone up to like maybe $1 billion in total market cap. Between all of them, something like that. I've been seeing the number of $1 billion thrown around recently. But what they have been doing is they've been backing up the mempool, which is this like, this is the queue of transactions to get put onto the blockchain. And so people are posting all these transactions because they're trying to, mint this BRC20 token. They're trying to transfer it. They're trying to whatever, do stuff with it. And it, at some point in the past week or two, it got backed up. The mempool got backed up to the point where it would have taken like, days or maybe even a week to process all of the unconfirmed transactions. People kept putting higher fees. This is reminiscent of any sort of bull run on Ethereum tokens, NFTs or ERC20s, right? People keep bidding higher and higher fees to buy or mint or whatever. And so Yeah, it got to the point where there were at least a few blocks where the transaction fees were even greater than the block reward. So it was like the whoever mined that block got the reward more than 2 times over. So anyway, that's the short of it. It definitely led to some discussions. It resurfaced some of these discussions on block size because block size people were like, oh, if you would have had a larger block size, these would have processed a lot faster and so on. Lightning Network seemed to slow down a bit too because people couldn't open open or close channels or send Bitcoin to or from the Lightning Network because those all have to be on-chain transactions. Binance even paused Bitcoin withdrawals because fees were too high. It was a mess. It was a mess. So, and there's a lot of debate on how to get out of it. So, sorry, that was the quick of it. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, things you've seen, different opinions being thrown around about how to fix it.
Well, it seems like people have been resurfacing like ideas of like potentially this could cause a hard fork. I don't know exactly what that would look like. Have you seen that, Matt? Like, what exactly are they proposing would be the hard fork if this were to happen? Removing Taproot, would that require a hard fork?
Yeah, I guess I don't know whether people are proposing removing Taproot or adding something that is like more limiting to Taproot, but then ordinal people. So the difference here, so just like you had the big and small block size people before, here you kind of have the ordinal people and the Bitcoin maxis are the two sides here. And so the Bitcoin maxis want to, I don't know if they would roll back Taproot or if they would simply they would try to add impediments to it. But then the ordinal people are like, well, whatever impediments you add, like, we'll figure a way around it, right? We figured out how to do all this stuff with Taproot already. So, yeah, I don't know if they're specifically what they're proposing.
Matt, if I think I know Bitcoin, like I know Bitcoin, I have a feeling they're going to potentially leave this in the dust.
Leave what? Ordinals in the dust?
Taproot, yeah.
Get rid of it?
Yeah. I hope they don't because it seems like something they can work through, but it just seems like this might not have gone the way they thought it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And then again, isn't that how a lot of inventions are though? You create something and then people decide to use it for something completely different. Yeah. And for the record, nobody trolls Ethereum like Bitcoin does the BRC20. I just figured I'd just kind of mention that they nobody trolls Ethereum better than Bitcoiners, but this is just them becoming like Ethereum essentially.
Essentially, yeah. I don't know if it was Bitcoin that was trolling Ethereum or if it was Ethereum people trolling Bitcoin.
Right. But, yeah, that could be too.
But just like historically, I don't know how many people know the history there, but Vitalik, when he originally proposed what became Ethereum, he was proposing a what do you call it? A change to the Bitcoin network, basically.
Yep.
An upgrade to the Bitcoin network to support basically what Ethereum is now. And I don't know exactly what how the conversations went there. I know they rejected it. I don't know if they rejected it on the basis that they weren't ready for that yet, or on the basis that they really just wanted to keep it a pure currency and didn't want to involve themselves in any sort of application processes. But I don't really understand the animosity there if they basically told Vitalik that, we're not interested in Bitcoin being that, we just want to be a currency. And then, he goes off and starts his own chain that allows him, allows us to do what Ethereum does now. If that's really the case, then it makes sense to me that Bitcoin just wants to focus on currency stuff and doesn't want to be involved with ordinals, doesn't want to be involved with, any of this other stuff. At the same time, there shouldn't be any animosity with chains that do support things that are not currency related. That makes no sense to me. It never has.
Well, yeah, I don't know. The Bitcoin, no, I do think it makes sense. Bitcoin maxis are very much against any cryptocurrency that isn't Bitcoin, right? Have you seen those people who try to say that there's a difference between Bitcoin versus crypto? And it's like, what is Bitcoin? Oh, it's a cryptographically secure.
I mean, I understand why they think that. I just don't.
Right.
Yeah. I just don't understand, why can't blockchain technology be used for something other than a currency?
Yeah.
I don't see that Ethereum is competing with Bitcoin. I don't see the competition.
Yeah.
But
No, I'd really like to see blockchain technology be integrated with more supply chain related entities.
yeah.
I think it'd be a lot more seamless. Just creating that identity, and then
Mhm.
from the manufacturer to the distributor to the end customer, and then just have the logistics stream. I think it would be extremely efficient. It's
Mhm.
just that there's so much money surrounding that. I talked to my boss about it one time, and he's just like, "Yeah, there's too many dollars in too many hands. It would never. Nobody wants to give up that much piece of the pie, unfortunately."
I think
So
they will eventually. I think it's
I
just
know, I know.
inevitable.
Trust me, I know. That's why I'm a advocate for this stuff
Yeah.
personally. So
Or they won't
um,
want to, but they will have to. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
some way,
Someone else
shape,
will
or
build
form.
it. And
They're
then,
already kind of doing it through EDI. So I don't like it's just a matter of time
Yeah.
before the whole thing gets put under some sort of umbrella. With that being said, any closing remarks, thoughts? Thank God for Bitcoin coming up. You guys are going. That's exciting stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, say hi if you're there to Connor and Matt. They'll be hopefully just bouncing around.
Hmm.
Yeah, that should be
Yeah.
fun.
And I'll just say too, like, if there's anybody who's building on Bitcoin or on anything that's not Bitcoin, but anybody that's building on blockchain at all, including Bitcoin, I would be very interested in like speaking with you. I want to I want to talk to developers in the blockchain space overall, and see if we can maybe have a potential future podcast or something on on actual like development projects.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Whether it's in person at the conference or yeah, just let us know if
Yeah,
you listeners know somebody who's developing on blockchain, you want to connect them to us. Yeah, let us know. I'm
yeah,
definitely particularly interested. So I agree with Connor. Anybody who's developing is cool, but I'm actually particularly interested with all this Taproot stuff of like what people are building on Bitcoin now. Just
Well, I hope you guys get
a lot of
some more
interesting.
answers to some of our questions we've been asking on the
Yes.
podcast next week, especially surrounding Bitcoin and being around that many maxis. Hopefully, you can get some good answers and not a bunch of jargon, Bitcoin jargon, sound money has value, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, we get it. But, nonetheless, I still think Bitcoin is probably the best. And I don't see why it isn't just because of everything that surrounds it and the philosophy behind it that Satoshi established. So,
but
yeah, without anything else, this has been the Crypto Conversion Podcast. Appreciate you all for listening. Hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.